All right, well, welcome to the Billionaires Club Meetup group. Appreciate you guys coming out on the coldest night so far of the fall, winter, frozen season here. Let's just take a second, kind of let go of that day, kind of breathe it out, get rid of any of that negative energy left over from traffic or wherever it came from. Just blow it out. Feel that energy in the room here. And set your intention. What do you want to get from the meeting? You came all this way, why don't you get something from the meeting? And set that intention and throw it out there and just let it go and see what happens. See what the universe delivers today. So who's new to the Billionaires Club? I think we got one here, two. Okay, good.
Cool.
And anybody new to the law of attraction itself? You guys kind of know it? I know most of you guys. Okay, good. That'll make it easier. We'll jump right into the deeper end then. So I'm Kevin Young. My wife Suzanne and I own personal success programs. We do coaching, training around law of attraction, business, personal. It's what we do all day long, and we put this on as a way to create a little community of law of attraction followers, practitioners, so you guys can have better lives, and we create a community where we can share this because the world desperately needs self-empowerment these days, if you hadn't noticed.
We also put it on because we just like having friends that think this way. How many of you have friends that you can just talk about this stuff with? A couple.
Probably got a couple, yeah, but most no, right?
Yay.
Well, two. Actually, when we took this over in February 2014, the group had been around since 2009. We were just talking about this. And we go on a lot of the cruises with Abraham Hicks, who teach the law of attraction. They're kind of the leading edge, one of them anyways, for the last 30 years or so. Jerry and Esther Hicks. They've written like 50 books on the subject. Well worth getting if you want to learn more about the law of attraction. So we've been on cruises with 800 people at a time and really learned a lot about the law of attraction in the process. And what we discovered was we kind of got tired of going to like Cancun. Well, nothing wrong with Cancun, but to actually meet people.
About that.
Let me finish the sentence, please. I'd like to be there now. But to go there to have conversations like this, right? And so coming back from one of the cruises, like about 3 years ago, I think, we decided, we just kind of had a conversation. It might have been on the plane or something. I was like, well, wouldn't it be nice if we actually met some people in the Detroit area instead of having to go around the world to meet people to have this conversation with, and kind of let it go. And then through a series of events, we had been a member of this club, and we went to exactly one meeting, and we did not like the presentation. It was only 10 people, and the lady was kind of selling her stuff, is what the group was. But we kept an eye on it, and in, I think it was February, end of January, early February 2014, she disappeared. Just kind of left the group. Okay. And so I pressed the button right away to take over as the organizer because I could feel the energy. I knew there was energy in this group, but I had no idea that there were over 600 members in the group at that time because we never saw more than 10. So we, within about 3-4 months of making that request of the universe, we had 600 new friends who had some level of understanding of law of attraction. Right? And now we're at over 1,400. 1,433, I think, is the number. So I sent that email out today. I don't know if you guys got it, about having not been getting the emails. You guys, are you guys getting the emails?
Lisa got it. She said she just got the email. Lisa did.
Okay, so you got the email? Okay. Well, I got about 40-some responses. So I know they've had problems with the email system, and we got 1,400 members. So I figured there's a lot of people who must not be getting the emails because we get about a third of the people every time of the meeting are new. And so there's definitely growth here, and there's people who want this information. So anyways, it's that easy to manifest. You set your intention and let it go, and don't try to figure out the how. That's kind of the basis of law of attraction. Right there. Let's see. And then our support staff, Mimi Brown, sitting there in the back. She's had a long day,
Yay,
so she's
Mimi.
chilling out there, and Mimi's
doing her own meditation back there.
Yeah, very, very, very busy woman. Public speaker, presenter, teacher, coach, on Live in the D on Channel 4 every Friday. Friday, is it? Friday at 11? Oh, it's Mondays now. Okay, it used to be Friday. She talks with the group on TV and gives her Law of attraction, subtle opinion. Detroit's not quite ready for our message in here, but we're working in that direction. That's what we want. And then in the back there, we have Deb and Kathy, and then out at the table is Margaret. Say hi, Margaret.
Hi, Margaret.
They're our wonderful support staff. We've got about 8 people who volunteer regularly and help us out. And we couldn't do this. This is all volunteer. And we charge the money just to pay for the church and the goodies. We don't typically make any money, and definitely won't today.
Not today.
But we do it for fun. So we couldn't do that, what we do, without these guys, so we really appreciate them. Mission of the group here, Billionaires Club is created as a place for like-minded souls to gather and share knowledge and experiences around this universal law of attraction. It's just a law, it's just like gravity, so we just study it, we look at it from all the different angles, how we've experienced it, we share our experiences here in the group. This is an open forum, so if you got something to say, speak up. We usually use the microphone, and we could still today. I mean, it's such a small group, probably don't need it. We use it because of the recorder, but the recorder's not working, so.
But we're going to still use it because we're trying to record it on a phone, so it's even more important that we speak right into the microphone.
Yeah. So what we want, there's nothing off limits here. Nothing is off limits here. Whatever's on your mind, if you have a law of attraction bit you want to know about or you want to talk about, or maybe you got an answer to somebody else's question, jump right in. It's an open forum. We're all equals.
We
here.
love that. Whatever you want to talk about, because we've always think we've heard it all, but there's always something more.
We never have.
And we love that.
Our vision is to build a community of naturally influential, self-empowered, and self-responsible leaders to help return this Detroit area back to a world-class status that it used to be back in the 40s and the 50s. You know, they sort of understood law of attraction. Anytime you have success, you have instinctively figured out the law of attraction. It's not something that you need to go to school for, but most people aren't aware of the underlying mechanism, so they trip across it. They have some success, they don't know why they had the success, and then they fail. Or they lose the success because they don't know why they created the success. When you understand the mechanism, the emotional scale, your conscious thoughts, and the guidance system that you have, then you can start to tune it. And then now reality changes right in front of your eyes. Things just start to line up. Things start to work out for you. It is designed to be a perfect system. And it is perfect when you work it. But you got to do the work, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. So as you become this more self-empowered and self-responsible, then you'll start radiating it to other people. You'll be it. Have you ever been around somebody who's really charismatic? They just were positive and you just wanted to be around them? Well, they understood this. Right? They understood the importance of managing their own thoughts so that their energy was up high. And up here, it's exponentially larger energy than it is down here in the fear and insecurity and anger and so forth. Do you guys all have the emotional scale? Did you get one of the little cards? If you don't have
Anybody
one,
need one? We can hand you one if you didn't grab one at the front table.
Deb will get a handful. It's good to have that. It's not so much the detail of each specific emotion, because the emotions themselves specifically aren't as important as the range. Down here are the most disconnected emotions. Up here are the most connected emotions, and that's connected to you, or the broader part of you. It's all based in energy. So we have one rule. It's more of a guideline here in the club, and that's no open solicitation. We just don't allow open selling of products and services on the website or in the group. Other than that, talk to each other. This is the best group of people to do work with if you have a business or a career or something. These guys understand. The neat thing about the law of attraction is once you start to understand that you're the one creating your own reality, and you deal with other people who understand that too, then there's never any blame. There's never any victimization. There's never any holding the other person responsible because you're the one who attracted it. And if you can own that, it takes a while to own it. Because if you, in this society, particularly, victimization is exactly the opposite of what we're teaching here. But they'll get it sooner or later. You can only be a victim so long before you attract so much stuff that it just clobbers you over the head, and finally you have to change your direction. We all have that point where we hit. So turn off your cell phones or put them on quiet if you don't mind. Let's see what else. I guess we'll just get right into it here. So we usually start off with success stories, law of attraction success stories. And the idea is we just talk about some things where a law of attraction event occurred where you can tie in, well, here's what I was thinking, here's what I did, and here's what I manifested. And there wasn't necessarily any action in between. Because that's the key. We're taught to be an action-oriented society, but inaction's fine. Sometimes you have to take action, but that ignores the huge leverage of energy. Everything is made up of energy. Everything. Everything is made up of energy. You're made up of energy. All vibrational energy with different vibrational signatures. Your thoughts are attractive in nature, and the universe is reflecting them back all the time. So when we get in harmony with that, we tune ourselves and get ourselves up at the top of the scale, we're in harmony with broader intelligence, with a broader guidance system, and that energy comes through us. And at the same time, as we're being guided towards things, things are being attracted towards us that we want. And so if you can use the leverage of your thoughts to get more into this harmonious state with the broader energy, now you're leveraging that energy, and the law of attraction becomes your friend instead of beating you up, which it does. In either case, you attract what you think about whether you want it or not. And if you're thinking, you're attracting, period. Okay? The only time you're not attracting is when you're unconscious, when you're asleep or you're meditating, if you've shut your thoughts down. Those are the only times you're not attracting. The good thing is there's a lot of momentum in play here. So if you're up here, wherever you are, if you stay consistently at a given place for a long enough period of time, the momentum, energy momentum builds up, and that's when things start to happen. So it's the same thing down here. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're down here in anger a whole lot, then guess what you're attracting? Things that'll make you angry. People that'll make you angry. Experiences that'll make you angry. Thoughts. Thoughts are attractive. Everything's energy. Your thoughts are the first thing that you attract, by the way. 17 seconds of staying on a given thought. Let's say you're down here blaming somebody or something for the way you feel or whatever's going on. Stay in blame for 17 seconds, and you'll attract something else to be blameful about. Try it sometime. You can't actually think about this while you're doing it, because then you're thinking. But looking back, I do this a lot now. You get down a certain path, and all of a sudden everything's falling apart, and you think, what the heck happened here? And then you realize, oh yeah, I had that one experience like maybe 15 minutes ago or 2 days ago or whatever it was that triggered an old memory of disempowerment or whatever the emotion was, and I kept playing it back, right? And then guess what? I got something else that came in and matched that feeling. It's the frequency, the vibration. Worry, blame, anger, doesn't matter which one it is. It's like a radio dial. Wherever you are, that's what you're attracting. And so then you get another thing, 17 more seconds, another thought, and then after 68 seconds, physicality starts moving around. There's enough energy momentum that law of attraction moves the universe around, starts manipulating things so that you can attract more things that match that frequency, whatever it is. That's why it's really important to manage your thoughts regardless of what you're getting hit with.
And I have to tell you, one of the first times, it was many years ago, we were driving up north. This is just proving it to myself. And I was on this diet. Anybody ever been on a diet? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this particular diet I'd been on before, and I knew when I was on it, I wouldn't get hungry on it. That was one of the things I loved about it. And so we're driving up north, and I'm on this diet, and some hours go by, and I'm thinking, I'm starting to get hungry, and I never get hungry on this diet. What's going on? And then I began to realize, I couldn't understand it. It just didn't make sense. I began to realize that I had been looking out the window and watching all the billboard signs that said McDonald's and French fries and hamburgers. And I had been building this up in my mind, reading it, thinking about it. It's no wonder my mouth was salivating and I was getting hungry, because I had been thinking, bless you, about it for a long time. And so what did I do? I had the awareness, I took a couple of deep breaths and I looked the other way. I started watching the cows and everything else that you can enjoy in nature, and my hunger went away. And that's how powerful it is. You just got to prove it to yourself. And when you catch yourself in something you didn't really want to manifest, start thinking, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And then you can put it all together. That was just one fun way that I remember saying to Kevin, I get it now.
You kind of get your own, there'll be an experience where you all of a sudden have that awareness, God, that's what I was thinking. And it's not even, the neat thing is that it's not even, doesn't even have to be subject specific, because most of us, if we're really focused on the subject long enough, we will manifest that subject. That's just how it works. Okay? But most of us are really sloppy with our thinking. We'll think about one thing, it'll annoy us or whatever, and then we'll go off to something else, and we'll think about that for a bit, and that'll annoy us. And then we'll go over and think about something else. And so law of attraction now has free range Right? It's just got a vibration going. It doesn't even have a specific thing that you want. And so it'll just attract anything that matches the frequency. Okay? It's as specific or as general as you are. Right? Again, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're down here in hatred, rage, anger, revenge, guess what? You stay down there, the law of attraction will find the nearest thing to you that will match that frequency and bring it. And it'll send you in that direction as well. It's rendezvous. Okay, law of attraction is about rendezvousing. It's always bringing you things and moving you towards them through the impulses that you're getting. That's the mechanism. So it really pays to, no matter what you're getting hit with, and you hear this, this Unity Church, I mean, one of the things they say, I've heard many times, is letting it go. You learn to forgive. And the reason you forgive is not for the other person, it's to let you off that energy. Right? The revenge, the anger, the frustration, whatever you have with the other person, is to get you off that frequency. And you rise up here, and now you start attracting better situation, better experiences, regardless of what's coming at you. But the thing is, there's going to be a delay time between the two. So if you let something go, well, you still have momentum in play. Right? The car is still kind of going in that direction. You put the brakes on, it hasn't stopped yet. So you might start attracting more things that make you angry, even though you're now up here. So there is a lag time. So the universe is sometimes slower. Physicality is slower to respond than energy is. Okay, energy responds instantaneously. Thoughts are instant, but the energy around in physicality takes longer. So that's why it's really important to be diligent about managing your thoughts, regardless of what's coming at you. And eventually, it always turns because you're creating the reality. You created the reality to begin with. If you're getting things that make you angry, well, guess what? You've been angry, and you just didn't do anything about it. That's all. Nothing wrong. There's no judgment with the law of attraction. There's no judgment in the universe. It's just like gravity. It's just a dumb law. All it does is it reflects things back that you're putting out. Lady in the front row.
Oh, yeah, we got front row. Good, because now I can run over here.
Hey, Laurie.
Are we on Facebook, like with the phone?
No, we're not.
Say again? No.
Okay, so I went to the party and had good conversations. I went to the party and
The holiday party we had last
and
week.
met people, and it was really nice. And then I went home and I gave my dog pumpkin pie, and he got pancreatitis Sunday. So despite him almost dying and me driving in horrible weather, I felt so good about whatever. And then there was a friend who called me about my dog, who I hadn't talked to in a while, I was angry with, and she invited me to Christmas. How's the dog? Then my dad, who I don't normally talk to, called about the dog. And there was these good things happen. Well, then, as I was at the hospital, so I'm not managing my thoughts because I haven't been here except for one other meeting. So I have thoughts, and I'm usually enthusiastic, and that's my nature, but I instantly went to fear. Oh my God, he's going to die. They're not going to do it. They're worry, doubt, anger that they're not going to do. They didn't do what they're supposed to do. And then I had a doctor's appointment today expecting the guy to be a jerk, and he was a major jerk. So
Wow,
I was
nice job.
So I basically went whoop, and then I went down, and
Yeah, so
I
you
did.
can-
I expressed outwardly that, I mean, talking to the staff, he doesn't have a good bedside manner, does he? And, oh, not really. So it was the most bad, it was a horrible treatment. So now, here's the question. Managing our thoughts, since I do this really well and see proof of it, the best way, so if I'm sitting there and I repeated the story about how I was badly treated, and I even did it walking in the door.
Uh-huh.
So the best thing to do is then say, let it go, it's over, it's done, and how do I get up to passion, enthusiasm, optimism, hopeless? So how do
That's
I
a great
actually
question.
manage?
How do you manage it? Yeah, it's a perfect question. That's
I'm
exactly.
just going to give the first little bit of advice whenever we catch ourselves down there. What I've learned is really helpful for me, and it took practice. I start breathing deep. Oh, boy. I know I don't want this anymore, I say. I don't want what I'm feeling right now. Can't change what's already happened, but I know I don't want what I'm feeling. And the way to quickly get connected to source energy, high-frequency energy, is to breathe deep, because that's how we live, and source is helping us live through the breathing. So in anxiety, we're shallow breath, because we're fearful. And that's why I've learned the minute I've caught myself in an emotion that doesn't feel good, no matter what the thing was, I just take some deep breaths, say to myself, everything's going to be okay. You know, I'm okay here. I'm okay with this emotion right now. It just is. It's just a little guidance for me that I'm going to catch myself right now and breathe. And then it's up to you to figure out words that are going to work for you to gently take you up that scale, because you cannot go, because the frequency is so low, from fear or worry up to joy, which is high frequency, in one fell swoop.
On that subject.
On that subject.
Because you got a lot of momentum going.
Yeah, you could switch your attention immediately and put on some really good music, which helps. You could, look at nature. There are a lot of things that can distract you from that painful thought that came with the situation. But the way to help yourself get over that and really let go of whatever it was that made you feel bad is to gently start thinking thoughts that will gradually bring you relief on the situation. Well, they did the best they could. Nobody really knows. Every dog is different. Every person is different. So when a doctor or whatever does a treatment, they're doing the best they can. Nobody does these things but things aren't perfect, and so I'm okay with that. And only you would know the words that would help you bring some relief, because it's all about you feeling better, so that you can, as long as you hang on to that was a horrible experience and
Blame,
I'm a victim, then you can't receive it when you're hanging on to. You can't receive the good stuff.
It's interesting because as you're talking, I hear there's resistance from habit.
Yeah, just habit. Yes.
And the habit of my family was blame, anger, victim, and I'm not revenge, but listening to even, it's like, wow, what a habit it is, because it's so long of, like, what is it doing to serve me? Not much, right?
Well, it's self-feeding, because if you were rewarded if you were punished for it being your fault, which a lot of us were, that's where the victim mentality comes from, we get criticized for being wrong. I just learned this recently from one of the recordings. All through school, 12 years plus, we're graded. Right? You're either good or bad. You're either, you either pass or you fail based on somebody else's criteria, not your own guidance system.
Yeah.
Right? So you're trained away from your own guidance system.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then if you have a family where there's a lot of the victim stuff going on, and I had some of that myself, then the last thing you ever want to do is feel that blame, right? Because it was horrible in the family, right? If you made a mistake, you get judged, you get attacked, you get shamed, right? So we do whatever we can to find somebody else to blame.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to anger. Right, it depends on the subject, but none of this is healthy. But here's a really important piece. Okay? It's easy to judge yourself then for being in that emotion. Oh, I got it wrong. I'm down here in feelings of revenge. Bad me. I shouldn't be feeling those. Yes, you should. If you're down here in fear and you move up to revenge, bravo.
That's progress.
You did
You
a great
brought some
job
relief to yourself.
on that
It's
subject.
good. It's
Right.
good.
You did good.
Yeah.
Now, we always say this is your personal journey. It's not about anybody else. So you never, ever move yourself up the scale and then involve somebody else.
Yeah,
right? Because it's not, and if you do, guess where they'll be? The same frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you'll amplify it, right?
I know Lisa's been eager to share.
Great question, Lori.
Well, I wanted to share, I think it was maybe 3 months ago, we did an exercise in here where we just made a list of like 10 or 15 things that we enjoy. So when you're in that place where you're having a bad moment, if you can just list to yourself a bunch of things that you enjoy, like the laughter of a baby, daisies, a clear blue sky, and you start thinking of all these things that are positive and bring you good feelings, then you can't feel good and bad at the same time.
Yeah, it's a good
kind
point.
So it kind of wipes away the negativity. So it's kind of a little bit like she said, the deep breathing also, but like it's a very quick way to kind of stop that flow
Yeah, if you can.
of
Now,
negativity.
keep in mind that there's a big gap here. And law of attraction is holding you where you are because it's feeding it back. It's constantly bringing you what you're putting out.
Where you're vibrating. It's always coming back to you.
Just keep in mind that you won't be, as Suzanne said earlier, you won't necessarily, if you're really steeped in anger or blame or something, and it's okay, right? First is you forgive yourself. It's okay, I am where I am. I can't be anywhere else, so I am where I am, right? And if you just need to reach higher in the moment. You can't reach here from here right off the bat, but you can move up. So we encourage people to feel anger if they're feeling powerlessness, if they're feeling fear. If they're down in this area, make yourself angry. not around people. Remember, this is not about somebody else. And if you do it around somebody else, you're going to get the results of being around somebody else.
They'll get angry back at you
You'll
because that's
get
just the
angry
way
back.
law of attraction works.
Right. But if you get off by yourself, I used to, in my car or in the basement, I bought a 50-pound punching bag and a baseball bat years ago when we started learning about this, because I have had such suppressed anger inside of me because of my upbringing. We weren't allowed to express it. So I just stuffed it down, right? So when that sucker comes up, it comes up, right? And it's quick. So now I've learned to trigger it. When I start to feel things down here and I realize, or maybe I'm ignoring my feelings. Sometimes, that's still really easy for me to do. But guess what? The law of attraction doesn't care if you're ignoring the feelings. It keeps bringing them anyway, right? So I'll drop my water on the floor, I'll stub my toe, and all of a sudden I realize, well, dang it, I've been down here and I totally didn't even see it. But the manifestations have now gotten so big that I'm physical stuff, so then I can get really angry right in that moment. I will get really angry, too. Not around Suzanne or not around the dog, but just by myself. Or I'll get away from myself and get angry someplace else to get it out. And then I've broken the evil spell. I've broken the cycle. I'm now moving up. Sometimes I still spill the water after that. Remember, there's a delay, right? But I know I'm going up, so then I can start to do things that I enjoy or that will pull me up. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Terry? Yeah,
Okay.
And then Lynn had something, too, here. Where are you going there?
I just wanted to say that one of my favorite things to do is be around like-minded people because they love me anyway, and they know that my energy is normally fairly high, and if it's not, being around them helps me pull it back up. So
Yes,
that's a really
that's
good thing.
very
That's why I
helpful.
like being here.
That's why I love you being here, too.
Suzanne?
Oh,
Terry and Lynn both had their hands up here.
Okay.
After I saw Abraham Hicks, it changed my life. I lose my keys on a regular basis, and it's so frustrating. And I stop, and I think about what I want. And I actually align with the universe to help me find it. Inevitably, the next place I look, it's there. And this has been happening for years.
Nice job.
It's unbelievable. But the thing that I also know, that when we're aware of that momentum down there, and I'm practicing this now every morning and every night, and it's Oprah's advice, is just to be in gratitude. Right? Like to really find what you're grateful for. Because there's so much that can pull us off, especially I know how powerful I was with my anger and frustration. And I've recently let it go.
Good for
Completely.
you.
I recently came from my heart instead of my head. And I think when we're in our head, it's a lot of memory. It's a lot of trigger.
Good point. Yeah, a lot of memories.
And when we are really in touch with our heart and when we see other people, realizing that we're kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say that we're victims, but there's energy that comes at us. And the only way out of it is to align with the universe, in our thought. And I think we have to prepare for the devil in a way. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that in business. Like, I have to think about where I'm going, and I look for that evidence, and then it creates a vibration. And I think you can manipulate the attraction
Nice. Yes.
by that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Pre-paving.
Huh?
Pre-paving.
Pre-paving?
Yeah, you're paving the energy ahead of the experience.
I love that. I love that. So, and it does attract more people with it, where before I was afraid of the people around me. And so I had my defenses up, and it's now that I actually see that it comes from me, I'm reaching out and attracting amazing people that want to see a mutual win.
Good for you.
So it's alignment, with what you want.
And it's practice, as you said.
Oh, my
The
goodness.
awareness, lifetime of doing it the other way, and it's like it doesn't come overnight.
Yeah, it's a conscious muscle, like exercise. I think of that.
Right.
But honestly, if you lose your keys every day, you get good practice.
Good for you. And then Lynn had her hand up. Lynn?
So I had an experience that I thought was pretty humorous after I calmed down. But anyhow, I was riding my bike down. I live by Cass Lake, and I was riding my bike down by the park. And there were these young boys who were fooling around like teenagers. And one of them started running away from the other two, I guess to protect himself or whatever. They were just playing around. But he's running this way and not paying attention, he's running into me. And I yelled, "Look up!" And he stopped just in a moment from when he was going to hit me. And I was really angry because my anger was out of fear of, oh my God, I'm going to fall off my bike and maybe break a bone. So the irony was, I'm riding my bike and I'm really irritated by the whole thing. And I don't usually get irritated too much. So anyhow, I think it was because it startled me. So then I finished riding around the park, and then I was riding back up towards my house, and I'm riding down the street, and it happened again. Only this time it was a couple kids on skateboards. And so I think part of the emotional thing, too, is the level of the intensity of the feeling. Because I was like, and boy, it recreated like in 10 minutes. It was like,
You're a good creator. You're a powerful creator. Nice job.
Told that.
Good job.
It's good feedback. And there's one other piece, and then Mimi's got something to say there, too,
Yeah.
that's important to know about Lynn. And that is, and for everybody, that nothing comes out of the blue. Nothing just shows up out of the blue. Okay? You can be oblivious to the emotions going on, which I often am. Okay? But when you have a manifestation like that triggers anger, it means you already were angry. And you just were suppressing it. Or we're used to emotions, right? We're really used to being frustrated, angry, fearful, guilty. We just get used to this, and so we don't do anything about it. We don't change the thoughts that are creating the emotion. We ignore the emotion, and then it just has to get big enough to where we have the manifestation, and then we make the change. That's how it works for everybody. We all have sensitivity levels that we've been practiced to for our emotions, that where we ignore them below a certain level. And things have to get big enough before we make a change. Right? Sometimes it takes a car accident. Back in 2008, for me, it was a brain tumor. I had such frustration and victimhood and revenge energies in myself because I could be taken advantage of. I didn't know because I had no emotional guidance. So people would take advantage of me. Could be financially, could be in a relationship. And then I'd be all pissed off, and this thing I thought was going great all of a sudden wasn't going great, and then it was all their fault, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night with sweats, and I'd be so angry, and that's where it went. Turned into a cystic brain tumor. Okay? It has to go someplace, and it had to get that big because I was so resistant to my emotions before I would see it. And that's when it was actually within a month or so of the diagnosis of that I learned law of attraction. That's where I met the Abraham Hicks material. I got this problem and the solution showed up at the same time, as they always do. This time it took that experience to get my attention. And I still, like I said, I'll stub my toe or drop the water or something will happen, but I respond pretty darn quickly because I know I created it. I'm not happy about it when I'm down here, and I know to get angry about it because that releases the energy, but it doesn't take me long. In fact, I can have a really bad night for whatever reason, something that happened the day before and I don't clean up, and by noon I can be right back on track, just because I've been practicing this, like Terry was talking about. So you can overcome anything that's got you down. It just takes some time, and don't be afraid to work with people like us or other. There are a lot of coaches now who are into law of attraction, understand this. The inner child work and so forth is really helpful in identifying and releasing these negative experiences that we have programmed that get triggered. Does that make sense, Lynn? Or you got another question on that?
Well, no, absolutely. What I was going to say on that is,
Hang on.
what I'm hearing you say is that, you have anger and whatnot, but I would take a different approach to it. I'm a therapist, and according to my own spiritual principles, is that I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. I tell my clients all the time, it's not what happens out there, it's all what happens up here. In any moment, you can choose love, joy, peace, or anger, or whatever. It's a choice. And so I think if you had a bad childhood, you had bad things happen to you, to go get some help and learn how to move on past it, forgive people, and find peace and joy in your life so you almost never go down there. And the other thing that's interesting, that another one of my little examples is, because sometimes people are practicing all this stuff, but it's not working. And I think sometimes, or crap shows up in your life and you're going like, where did that come from? That's not what I've been thinking. I'm not doing that. But sometimes we have subconscious thoughts that come from our childhood that are very powerful, and we're not even aware of what's going on. I had a situation like this happen to me. I was working in England I work with the military, so I was working in England, and the supervisor there sent in a report about me, and there was 5 complaints. All 5 were lies. It meant I couldn't go back to Europe for like 2 years after that. So I was working real hard with one of my friends going, I have to figure this out. What have I been thinking to create this? And it really took a while, but it dawned on me that because of my family of origin, I grew up in a family feeling left out and ignored. So I wasn't aware that I was, that was still there, and that's why. So I created the situation where, I was doing my job, doing a great job as I always do, but this situation happened to me. So I think for people, I'm kind of blessed. I pretty much create, and it shows up. I believe it, and it happens. It's kind of spooky, actually.
Yeah, so you've been practicing it. Good for you.
I have, but I know other people who, they try to do this and it just doesn't work. And I think that's, I'm suspecting that's the problem is other stuff, bad stuff keeps popping up, and it's because of the stuff in their subconscious mind.
Right, and that's when I mentioned the inner child work. It's that childhood traumas. That is it's a good point, and focusing on those things, getting some clarity on that is very important. One of the things that happens when we try to say positive affirmations, but we don't feel the emotion behind the affirmation, that's the disconnect. Is the emotions are what are driving law of attraction. Mimi's got something that she wanted to say there. Did we maybe get the mic back here first? Then we'll bring it back up to Lisa.
Patiently. I wanted to comment on, I don't know your name, but Terry. So when you mentioned, Kevin earlier mentioned you always have this guided system within you. I had the same experience with my keys. When I was in college, I would lose my keys all the time, and I was the only person on campus who had a car of my friends. So they would get ready to go places, and we would say, let's play a game, and they would repeat, find Mimi's keys. That was the mantra, right? And then one day, and I don't know where it came from, I just started getting still, and I would find my keys in the darndest places. And if I had looked around frantically and pulled all that energy, I would never find them. But when I got quiet, and I would just get centered and say, where are my keys? Help me find my keys. They would show up in minutes. So I totally resonated with that. The other thing I wanted to mention was the part about being grateful. And even when you have gratitude with someone you don't really particularly care for at the moment or in your life, Kevin has taught me either they have to come up to your level in terms of vibrationally, or they have to go away. And I had a coworker of mine who I get along with mostly everyone, but this person had me on 10 most days. So I found a way to find something to be grateful for about her every day. And some days it took a lot of work. I was like, I'm grateful that you're here and I don't have to do your work. But within 3 weeks of doing this activity, she got another job, and I didn't have to work with her. It was amazing. She was gone. And it just proved to me that when you do the work and when you do the internal work and you don't make it about that person, but you do that work within yourself, it's amazing. Same thing with my husband. Anybody married or have a spouse? Anyone have a spouse that maybe drives you crazy? And every little thing that Mr. Brown would do, leave his socks in places, not pick up behind himself, dishes, I was just on 10. And then I talked to Kevin, so Kevin has coached me, and we did a gratitude activity. So every day I would find something I could be grateful for about my husband, and it had to be something specific. Thank you for taking the trash out. Thank you for washing dishes. And the most amazing thing happened within a couple of weeks. I got more of that. He started washing dishes more often. He started cooking more often. He stopped leaving his socks in the middle. You see, I have this thing with socks. Socks in the middle of the floor. And it was awesome. And I would put these notes in different places where he could find them. So it was in his car or in his wallet or in his briefcase. And I did it for about 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, he where are they? I mean, he was so excited to see him because I was really specific and loving, and that just brought the vibration up, and he came and matched me. So if you have that person in your life that maybe irritates you, or if you're working in that gratitude space to bring your vibration up, pour gratitude. And gratitude is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Hey, Mimi, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so
excellent.
true.
And that actually brings up an interesting point, which is one of the harder things to accept about the law of attraction is if somebody is pushing your button, first of all, it's your button, right? And second of all, you're on the same frequency. That thing that you don't like about them is in you. Right? It's just masked sometimes. It's got a little mask on it so you can't identify it. But I've found that to be very helpful. There are certain people, and certainly in my life as well, that have been very irritable to me when I was around them. And that was part of the people that I would get stuck down here in this feelings of anger and revenge and so forth that led up to the brain tumor. And when I understood that connection, that you can only see through the lens of your own perception, your own beliefs is what you're looking through, right? So if somebody's pushing your button on the other side, well, they're getting through that lens, and it's your lens. So that's inside you. That's the only way you can see it. So it's great feedback. Nobody wants to hear this when I tell them, but that is how it works. And so you can say, okay, if this person is maybe being loud and belligerent and is really annoying me, well, guess what? I got something of that in me too, or whatever the thing is. So if you can identify that, then now they're off the hook, and you don't have to blame them anymore. And don't blame yourself either. I want to really get that point across, right? You can't do anything wrong. Anywhere in the universe. There's no right or wrong in the universe. It's all in the human head, the judgments we have. So you forgive yourself, be okay with wherever you're at. Wherever you're at is good. It's really good because when you have the awareness where you are, you can make an improvement. But as soon as you're holding somebody else responsible for where you're at, you have no power. Right? You've given it away. Terry, you got a question? And then, is it Marie?
I wanted to share something.
Sure.
So about a year and a half ago, I decided that I wanted to have a child. Can you hear me?
There you go. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So about a year and a half ago, I decided to want to have a child. And I was living in Texas, so it might have been longer than a year and a half ago. Anyways, I decided it was time to come home. But financially, we weren't there, and finances are a really big issue sometimes for couples. And I started encouraging my husband to look for another job. And sure enough, he found another job, and I said, you're going to get a phone call next week, Wednesday. I know you are. He got a phone call next week, Wednesday. Yeah. We flew up for my mother's funeral. It's kind of in a dark spot. But I knew that good things were coming. And he ended up having an interview when we came up for my mother's funeral. So everything just worked out in such a way that it was so convenient. I knew how to do things. I knew what was going to happen, kind of, sort of, because it like felt right. That feeling that just like, yeah, this is how it's going to be good. And now we live over in Clinton Township. Every single Tuesday I meet with my bestie, and it's great. And my body is getting healthier every single day, and I'm so thankful for that because eventually we are going to have a child, and it will happen when it needs to. And right now is just time for me to heal. So
good for you. Good for you. Glad to hear that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
All thing in perfect unfolding, and you bring up a great point. It's Marie, right? And that is that we're always getting guidance like that, right? But you only hear the guidance that'll take you towards good stuff when you're up here at the top. You're getting guidance all the time, but it's taking you to where you are. Whatever frequency you're on, you're getting guided towards more of that because you're always going to rendezvous with the same frequency. Terry, you have a question? Okay.
Kevin, about the history of things, like the memory. So there was an interesting interaction with somebody that I had maybe a couple of years ago. It was not a good situation. And I'm over it, right? I'm really over it. I send them light all the time and very forgiving, I kind of, their character I'm not thrilled about, their character. But I felt open. So I got a note that was kind of like ridiculous about something, and we were on two different ends of the spectrum in terms of our communication. But I saw that they were talking to me as if I was the same as 2 years ago.
Ah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I love you to talk about that because it brings me back, and I feel like I have to be defensive. And I wasn't really defensive. I actually was pretty proud of myself, and maybe because it was an email. If it was in person, I may have been more reactive.
Yeah, so it's a great point. So there was still a little momentum in play, that's all. Right? So a little bit of residual momentum was going on, and something triggered the energy in you. It's easy to say, well, I never go down here, but you're lying.
No, I'm
never
down there,
here.
and I'm constantly playing up and down about
Yes,
this.
right. It's a journey. It's not a destination. You can never get up here at the top, or you won't be in a physical body anymore. So the whole reason you showed up here was to have the contrast. So you could have the awareness and manifest the new idea. So it's okay to be anywhere that we are at. And sometimes we, as part of that, put on the smiley face a little bit, like, well, everything's great all the time. But if it's not emotionally, the universe doesn't care what you're saying, right? It cares what you're feeling. And if we get used to kind of numbing in certain areas because it was painful, well, we're still sending the signal out. So the universe will still reflect it back, but good for you because you were obviously in a better place because it didn't affect you in the same way. It didn't pull you into the same conversation and you had the broader view. Yeah, so good job.
Even in this conversation, I feel body sensations about it, right? So here's the scenario that maybe you can prepave for me.
Okay.
So when I think about it, I think if I'm going to be in a situation where we're around each other.
Well, okay, so hang on, stop right there.
Yeah.
If you're around that person,
Yeah.
you're around anybody, you're on the same frequency. Yeah, some aspect, whatever you've been vibrating is vibrating in that other person. By definition, everybody in this room is roughly on the same frequency, and I'd guess most of us are up here pretty close.
So is it if I have the choice, would it be better just not to be in the same place?
Well, it's your choice, yeah. But the choice would be, am I ready to manage my own vibration enough to go into this situation and create a new experience, or is there a big enough risk that it's going to pull me down here, and it's not worth that risk? Nothing is worth being pulled out of alignment unless you're ready to do the work in the moment to get yourself back up.
I feel like, it's a lot of work because I'm walking into it as, like in the forum, they say already always thinking, that I don't feel like there's room for a new vibration. It's more like a historical one. So maybe I need some time away from it to
practice
disengage, to practice,
and to get your vibration. But one of the things you said was really great. They were treating you as though you were the old you, and you obviously expanded, so you had a broader view. The higher you go on the scale, the closer you are to your non-physical counterpart, the inner being part of you, which is not in physical form, which has the entire view. It's fifth dimensional energy, so it's everywhere at once. And the more aligned we get, the broader our view is, and therefore the more we can forgive, because we can see how everything is playing out.
And the more often you are keeping yourself in alignment and really working on that generally for your every day of your life, you will have a more solid vibrational set point of high frequency. So even when you do come in the room with him by chance or whatever, it's not always chance, but whatever, you won't be knocked off of it so quickly because you're more stable in your higher frequency. That is one benefit of just doing appreciation lists and lists of things that make you happy and keeping your focus on feeling good all the time. So even when you do run into someone who normally in the old times would have triggered you and sucked you into their energy, you're stronger in yours and it won't affect you, and you'll be surprised that that person doesn't even bother me anymore, and it's okay to be in the room.
Yeah, I think, let's go to Lisa.
Lisa's been.
But I want to be sure that we talk about pre-paving with relationships, because this is the season of relationships. Okay, so let's be sure we still got some time here.
Okay, well, I was kind of going to pull on that and say, like, the thing is with family, you don't always have a choice of being around them or not being around them.
Well, you
And
have
so the
a
holidays-
vibrational choice.
Right, but yes.
Yeah.
But I have an experience with my ex-husband who was, I don't know if he still is, an anger addict when we were married. And the first year and a half after our divorce was just anything he could do to get under my skin, he would do it. Even if it hurt our children, no matter, if he knew it would upset me, he would do it anyways. And I love to write. And so I would write kind of visualization. So not just the visualization, but I actually would write it out. And I write about every subject in my life, but I wrote about him, how we started getting along, and he was cooperating, and I just kind of forgot about it because I was more focused on another area of my life. And about 2 months later, something happened, and we had to do something with both of us and the kids, and he was like a different person. He was cooperative. It's like, because first of all, he had to meet me at my vibration.
Yeah.
I didn't come down to his. And I kind of set this intention, or I had this thought, this is the way it's going to be from now on. And then I just let it go. I didn't obsess over it, because when you do that, then you're putting negative energy in there, actually. And so just, you're afraid that he's going to bring you down, but maybe what will happen is he'll meet you wherever you're at.
Yeah, it depends on how stable your vibration. Yeah.
Can I make one more point about it?
Sure. Yeah.
And I understand this part is that, a lot of times people will bring others into that thinking. So so I feel like I'm not dealing with one person. I feel like I'm dealing with like a sea, whoever that.
Well, wait a second. You're taking responsibility for everybody else's point of attraction. You don't have that responsibility, right? It's only yours. So you're off the hook. Right? Just manage your own.
So a technique you could use that I've used, and I teach some of my clients who are on the same kind of page that I am, is that, and I used to do this at the holidays when my family was coming over to make things more pleasant. I would I'd do my prayer and my meditation, and then I would send pink light, loving energy to each of them, and things would go better. And what you could do then is, and then one time in meditation I was asking God, like, so who changed? And it came back, you both did. So what happens when you get yourself in a space of love, and not for the purpose of manipulation, because then it's not love.
It's not love.
But if you're sending love and you're raising up, when you two come together, or the whole group comes together, everyone's energy will be up, and you will do much better.
Yeah, it's great, and that's pre-paving. That's exactly perfect lead into it.
And
perfect lead in.
In case you think this is craziness, I call them God stories. I think they happen so I can get other people to believe. Years ago, I was working at EDS when I worked in corporate America, and one of my coworkers came to me to say, "Oh, Lynn, I don't want to go home. My wife's in a really bad mood. She's being really bitchy." So I said, "Okay, on the way home, just send her pink loving energy." And then kitty corner for me in my cubicle was a gal named Diane, who I really, really liked Diane, but she was like always negative, always complaining. And apparently it must have been getting under my skin. So that night when I was at home, I was sending her pink loving energy. And then I called a friend of mine to tell her something that was also a coworker, but she worked part-time and wasn't at work that day or the next day. And she was mad at her husband. And so then I started sending her pink loving energy, and I sent her some more in the morning. So I go to work the next morning. Tom comes to my desk and says, "Lynn, that worked. I got home and my wife was in a good mood." And then Diane, the first time and only time ever in my life, she skipped down the aisle going, "I am in such a good mood. I got all this energy last night, and I got all this stuff done." And then I called my friend Debbie, who's kind of on the same spiritual realm I was, to see how she was doing. And she goes, "Lynn, you were sending me pink love energy, weren't you? I could feel it." She said, "I was going, damn you, Lynn, I want to be mad at Michael." This works?
Yes, it does.
So we all need to do it to Donald Trump.
Well, I want to make a point about that, because that's a great technique, because that gets you in a great energy field, and it gives the potential for other people to be in a good energy field too. You can't insert yourself into somebody else's field without them being open to it. It's only law of attraction. There is no assertion. So those people were in a place where they were open enough to receive it, and you did beautiful things. You have we talked at the party. You have very powerful energy. I can feel your energy.
And you set a good example. You do it all the time. They were watching you be the
Yeah.
role model, which then, maybe I'll give it, they
Show
were
them
more
how,
open
yeah.
to receiving that whole thought process, too.
Yeah, nice. That's a great example.
All right.
I was angry at somebody. We had 15-year friendship, and somehow we were both I had some medical problems, and she had some medical problems, and she wasn't able to be there for me, and I was on my own a lot. And so then when I usually confront people when things are bothering me, and that person's not able to take it. So but growing up in a lot of anger and revenge, I don't do revenge. I do anger, I do blame, I do victim a lot. I was mad, she should be better and all this stuff. But I work on myself, so there's always an intention of going up higher. I think that's the huge thing, is there's always my intention. How do I keep trying to be the higher self? And then there was the party, and I've been dabbling in this stuff for years, but I haven't been consistent. So then a client was in my office, and she is talking about Jesus' teaching of, not only do you love your friends, but you have to love your enemies.
Yeah.
And she was struggling because she preaches, and that's her work, and she was struggling with a coworker that she can't stand. So I said, well, here it is. But of course, as I'm talking to her about, this is your test, my head's going, I need to be able to deal with Lisa. I need to be able to deal with this friend of, who I've been struggling with. And she had called me, and I remember my response was, of course she calls me only when she needs something. After all this time, I had hip surgery, I didn't get a call, anger, nothing, but, I need a referral. And I'm like, I'm not answering that call. I'm not going to call her back. Why should I? She can go get it from her other friend. I was all in that. Had the party, had this client come in, and I hear myself teaching the client, of course, I have to walk my walk. So I'm like, I got to call her back. And then she called again. I saw on Facebook, your dog is having trouble with pancreatitis. So I'm like, I really need to call back. And I need to be able to call without being angry. I have to call her back and not be like, how come you didn't call me when I had hip surgery, all that stuff. And I did. I had that intention of, I'm going to call back, and I'm going to be above that. I'm going to let that go. So I said, thank you. Here's what's going on with my dog. And by the way, here's a referral, several referrals. And then she invited me over for Christmas. So it's really kind of, we haven't talked. Last year at this time, I was going to send her wart removal because she said that her worst warts were healthier than me. So it was really negative, And so I'm going to go there, but I think it's that I let go. I let go.
Yeah,
I was thinking I don't need her also. There was this, I don't need this person in my life. I'm going to find, and my intention was, I'm going to set out, as scary as it is, to meet people. And even today, even though I wasn't afraid before, I sat in that damn driveway, and I'm like, do I want to go in? There's not that many cars. Should I really go in? I see you guys in the window. I don't know. Should I go in? Well, what the hell were you trying? What was your intention?
Yeah.
I literally was struggling today.
And here you are in the front row, talking on the microphone.
But every time I
everybody.
come, it's good, But I had to. It's like there's been a lot of pain in the last 6 years. And I'm like, what's the intention? Your intention is you want to meet more people. If you sit in the car and you go home with the dog and the TV, you're not going to meet people. But
Nice job.
my rising up, my dad called, my brother texted, she called, and I am going to go to Christmas.
Yay.
And I don't need to hold on to
glad hear
the
that.
scorekeeping. I'm going to just go and not judge. That's my game plan.
Yes.
So there's my pre-paving,
Yes.
is I'm going to go
Perfect.
and just enjoy the now. So,
Oh, nice job. I want to give you a round of applause. That was a great story. Thank you.
Nice thought process. You're just going to go and allow them to be who they are, not judge. Just they get to be who they are, and then you are free to be who you are.
And you
Isn't
have
that
to
lovely?
attract a good experience as a result of that, Marie. And then Leonard, and we haven't heard from anybody on this
side of the room is like, who wants to
we
say
putting you to
something over
sleep over here.
All
and-
right.
yeah, we'll give them a first crack, and then we'll get over here.
This is my first time at the group, and I'm happy to be here. I think it's funny to share how I ended up here. I literally signed up for Meetup.com like 5 hours ago. This was the first thing to pop up on the list, and I was like, well, shit, that's pretty much as clear of a sign as I could possibly get. So I was like, all right, I'll go.
Nice job.
So here I am. happy to be here.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here too. Thank you for coming. And you know, it's funny, you're not the first person who said that. We've had, I can think of maybe 3 people who said exactly the same thing. I turn my computer on, there's the Billionaires Club, I think I'll go.
We had
Now
a-
they come every time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so true. And then I know
Australia.
back here, Maria came from Clinton Township, and she doesn't like driving in the dark, and she comes and the church is all dark, but look, she's still here.
So I don't know what your name is, but my point kind of has to do with what you just said. Part of my life has been lived in fear, and I got tired of that. So I started to, I decided that I was going to start following those impulses that the universe was sending to me. And this led me to a woman who's helping me reconnect with my emotions so I can actually experience them and move on to the next step, the next path, whatever you want to call it. And I really just felt the need to mention that, just the actually acting on those impulses when they come through is a big thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we're getting those impulses all the time. It's a really good point. And Marie, you're obviously already fairly connected, or all those other things wouldn't have happened to even bring you here, to bring you to Michigan, let alone here in this room. So you're already pretty tuned in. That the impulses are the thing. And remember, you're going to get an impulse no matter where you are on the scale, right? But you want the ones that are up here, so you got to be up here. It's like a radio station, right? If jazz is up here and rock is down here, and you want to listen to jazz, you got to be up here at the jazz station. You literally have to change the frequency on your dial, which is the thoughts you're thinking, based on how they feel, and bring yourself up here. And then the impulses you get. What is so cool is when you get into this zone, you'll feel it. It'll just click in. All of a sudden, you'll feel like you're in a boat on the river, and the river's just taking you to everything that you want, and you're not even driving. Your oars are in the boat. And you just think, I think I'd like to do that. And you go that way, and everything lines up, and it happens. And then you think, I want to go over here, and everything lines up. And there's very little action and a whole lot of energy. And that's ultimately the greatest place to be. You can't maintain it because there's all these other triggers which will pop up every once in a while and get your attention. But when you get a day like that, and I've had them, certainly, and Susanna's had them, and probably all of you have had them when you weren't thinking about this. You just woke up, and you were in a good mood, and you got up here at the top of the scale, for whatever reason, and all of a sudden the whole day just evolved perfectly. You ever had that? I'm sure you've all had it at some point. Well, you do this vibrational work, and that will happen a lot more often. You'll be able to manufacture those days. And then life gets really good. It's exponentially good. Landing on something else?
Well, I think the other thing that I've been going to Unity for a long time, so this stuff is not new to me, and the secret's been out for, 16 years, and so I've been doing it. But besides the whole feeling thing, for those of you, if anyone's new here and doesn't know, it's the word of setting your intention or focusing on what you want and not what you don't want, because that's what you're going to draw to you then. And so when, if I want something, I'm making affirmative statements, like, after that situation happened with me in England, I was then affirming that, I'm going to get a great assignment, and all my colleagues are going to love me, and the military is going to love me, and it's all going to be wonderful, and I kept affirming it and believing it. And the next assignment, all my colleagues loved me and adored me for a number of reasons. I did project management, made sure everybody was working and doing the things they needed to do. The military loved me. They asked me to come back and be an embedded person for 3 months. So it's important that you are focused on what you want. And one of the things that I have been saying, I don't really know for how long now, maybe at least 15 years, if not 20, is everything in my life is in divine right order. Thank you, God. And particularly whenever I get a lot of stuff going on in my life, I start saying it a lot. And truly, I think at this point in time, I've said it so much, it's a law in my life that... Yeah. Like the law of gravity, truly, everything just falls in place. It's just like I just sit there and watch it all the time. It's frigging amazing. I have stories and stories about how, like one time I was working in Alaska, and my neighbor had sent me an email and says, Lynn, when you get home, you better look at your roof. So I get home and I look up and I go, daylight. It's not a good sign. It's going to rain. And I couldn't find anybody to come, like throw a tarp up there or do anything. And I just got home, and I had clients coming because I have a private practice in my home. And my outside of my house is a mess because I've been gone for 3 months. I got little maple trees going in the eaves trough, and the outside's a mess. And I'm outside trying to clean things up. I got the eaves trough done, and I'm doing a little weeding. And this doofus kid comes walking down the street, and he says, "Ma'am, I'm wondering if you need anything done around your house." And he says, "Like your eaves trough's cleaned up." I said, "Oh, you should have been here 20 minutes ago. I got that one done already." And I said, "Well, I need someone to," he said, "I'm working with a company down the street, and they're doing a roof down there." I go, "Really?" I said, "Okay, I need someone to come down and throw in." And I wanted to give a full estimate to replace the whole roof or just patch that, and a tarp put over the hole. So the kid goes, "Okay, no problem. My dad's the owner. I'll go down and get him." 10 minutes later, his dad's at my door, and in 20 minutes, I have a tarp on my roof, and 5 minutes later, it's raining. I mean, and this stuff happens to me all the time.
And so what you have is a knowing. You've gotten yourself up here, the very top, the energy up here of joy and knowing. And that when you have knowing, then there's no doubt. And when you have no doubt, things always have to work out. So it's a great story and a great point. Look for the evidence of your success. Always look for the evidence of your success. No matter how small it is, no matter how small that evidence is, there could be a whole mess of failure stuff around you, but you're going to get what you focus on. And Lynn has trained herself for a long time, obviously, to when something comes in, she acknowledges it. She tells the story of it. She repeats it back, and so guess what the vibration does? It stays there.
And having your phrase that you say is beautiful for you. And I have even simpler, because I didn't grow up in a church or anything. I just love saying, everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. When I hit a stumbling block, I take a deep breath. Everything always works out for me, and then a solution will come. It's the same. It's the comforting phrase you say yourself, that you say it enough as you go, and it becomes your mantra, and then you manifest that wonderful phrase.
So we are talking about pre-paving here. We are talking about managing energy. It's what it's about. It's about managing the flow of energy, because it's going to be moving regardless of anything else. Energy is moving, and so you're moving it. So being conscious of it and making a decision where to focus. And so that's what pre-paving is. We talked somewhat about it with the relationships. When you go into your family situations, the tendency is when we go into any situation, and we've been there before and it wasn't that good of a situation, we anticipate. Right? It's natural for us to do that. We start thinking, oh, that Uncle Joe is going to be there and he's a jerk, and my mom was pissed last time, and what if she's pissed again? And right? So guess what we're pre-paving? That experience, right? So we've already had part of this conversation. I just wanted to kind of drive it home that one of the things that you can do, particularly in the holiday season here, when you're going into your family situations, social situations, catch yourself beforehand. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes before you go into that situation. You'll be sitting in the car in the parking lot and thinking, okay, I'm about to go into a fairly treacherous situation. How do I want to feel when I'm done? When I walk out the door, how do I want to feel? Well, obviously up here someplace. So get yourself into that state first, right? And then walk in the door. And you'll be amazed. It's such a simple technique. Start looking for the good in everybody, pre-pave the good. And if you do that for more than just a few minutes, you walk in the door, only the people who are at that level can rendezvous with you. Again, that's the part of law of attraction. And the people who are in pissy moods, they'll be in different rooms, and you will not be able to run into them. It won't be possible. Unless they come up, in which case then you'll rendezvous and you have a great conversation. But you're the one who gets to pick. So make a commitment to yourself today. If you're going to go into one of those treacherous situations, recognize it ahead of time and pre-pave it. Get that momentum going in the direction so that the momentum carries you and brings the rest of the energy along. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, in one simple way, if you just want to do it quickly, have your favorite music that just lifts you up and you are happy singing with it available, and listen to that for a few minutes and just get in that spirit, that place that feels good, and then go into the room. And law of attraction will sort it all out. It's beautiful. We've seen it happen all the time.
What's that? Oh, the...
yes, that song.
Yeah, Pharrell Williams, or is that his name? Yeah, what's his name? Yeah, Happy. So I'll do a little check-in here, guys. got about 10, 12 minutes left. It's been a great conversation. You guys
Yes,
jumped
thank
right
you.
in and have taken it to the next level. So what do you want to talk about in the next couple of minutes? What questions haven't been answered? What's on your mind? We haven't heard much from this side of the room.
Come on, this side of the room. Here we
Faith,
go.
you got something for us?
I sometimes think, though, that action is really important to take to do the shift. That sometimes when we're in a knowing place, like I'll give an example of myself, like when I was in a place of fear, a situation happened when I was a leader here, and it brought me right down to the fear I had from 18 years ago, when my husband, was getting murdered. And so I was waking up in the middle of the night. I mean, I was living it, and it would happen, right? You had wonderful menopause, you can't sleep, you wake up, and then your head starts thinking. I hadn't been in that thought, like you were saying, how the feelings came, to you, kind of feeling the same way. That's such a strong vibration when you can feel that internally, like you felt that a long time ago, that I had a knowing that being in that state for a while, it was going to manifest negatively.
Oh, right.
I just had an inner voice, and then, of course, other friends that are at that same level said, you need to physically make a move. You need to physically take action, or I think you could get really sick.
Good.
And, I don't always think, like we were saying earlier, that action is necessary, but I think when it's a big thing or when there's that message that the outcome could be pretty bad for you, sometimes I think we need to take an action.
Yeah, I think it's great. I totally agree. Action can be very catalyzing. If you're
And that was an inspired action. It was drawing you because your other emotion was saying, I can't stay here. So the inspired action was to take action, and that always pays off
yeah, good for you.
when it's inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. We're never trying to tell people
Yeah, we don't
that
want you to
action
sit
isn't
around.
required. It's just that we tend to be action heavy in our society. We make things happen, and we got to go out and force them to happen. And all that energy usually is from doubt on down that it could happen any other way than us doing it, and that's simply not true. And the people who are making millions or billions of dollars, they have the same 24 hours, right? They're not doing a billion times more action. So they also have the leverage on top of that. But it's a really good point. If you're stuck someplace, do something, whatever you can to empower and vitalize yourself.
Something
Yeah.
you want it to just feel good, and then you'll be definitely going in the
Yeah,
right direction.
and remember again, down here, fear up to anger is, whatever. If it takes, like I said, I've got this punching bag and this baseball bat. My action is to whack the heck out of it for 15 seconds. That's all it takes. And then it's gone, right? And I move up the scale. I can't think my way out of that often because you're just down here paralyzed. Yeah, it's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up,
I was
Faith.
just thinking, when you take action, and I didn't recognize you, I know Faith. You look great, by the way. When you take action, I mean, I'm doing up and down. You've seen me too. I've gone up and down, up and down, up and down. I think my nature is the high enthusiasm, good vibration, and then I'm just so used to this. So I'm coming here now to actually try to be really much more aware of this.
Yeah.
But when you say take action, I'm like, okay, where is that? It's really freedom, isn't it? Because if
Well, it's in
you
that
choose
direction.
to take action,
It
is
might be more relief, just kind
or
of
is
as a
it? But
general.
it's also a freedom that, hey, I've got a freedom to do it differently. Like you did something different.
It's a good point. It's always moving up always feels better. So if you're going from fear to anger, then you're getting relief. It's not freedom yet, because in freedom there's absolutely no resistance at all. In
But
freedom,
there
if you
is
feel,
the freedom of choice. Yeah.
Instead of being stuck in fear,
Yeah.
to say I need to move in that moment, though, isn't that freeing?
It's a freeing moment. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that the emotion of freedom itself is right here, and there's no resistance in freedom, and you can't go from here to here on the same subject in one thought. It's not possible. Well, just because the law of attraction is holding you, is constantly bringing you things that match the frequency that you're on already. The momentum's always in play. So that's why you don't want to beat yourself up for doing a few affirmations and they didn't work. Well, you can't get from here to there on a given subject. You have to go from here to here to here to here on a given subject. But it can go very quickly once you get the hang of it, once you have the awareness oh, I'm down here and I'm feeling completely paralyzed. I got to do something. I'm going to get really angry. I'm going to scream my head off. I'm going to cry. I'm going to do whatever I can to get out of that negative emotion. Now you're on your way. Now you start to get access to broader intelligence. You start to get guidance. You get clarity. You get ideas of what to do next. You get ideas of how to get out. Right?
I think action is more of relief, because I think that if you can look at it this way, I think action is a vehicle. And the relief, do you see how it's an arrow? It's a movement. Relief is going to let you move.
Great.
And so
Great.
for me, the
Love it.
action was, I'm going to leave being a leader here. And it was a huge action, and I needed a huge action because I didn't really realize until looking at this that, wow, really? Faith Brower was at 22? Yeah. And I was at 22 for quite a while. And so that was really big for me.
Good for
So
you.
that's why that action had to be kind of big. And then it was a movement.
Yeah, good for you.
Really good way to describe it. And I still see your point of, I was so empowered when I finally understood how the law of attraction works, because I realized I have the freedom to choose my own thoughts. No one is thinking for me. And that brought me huge relief, because there's always choices, and I have the freedom to decide how I want to think about all of it, and then move myself, the movement, give myself relief.
We got about 5 minutes left here, guys.
Wow, time went by.
What do you guys, quick one? 2017. It is coming. Oh, good conversation to have, 2017. It's just like everything else. You can pre-pave it. So how do you want it to be?
One of the fun things we're just experiencing lately is to, and you've heard it by other people, I'm sure, but however you want 2017 to be, start talking as if it already is. I mean, I think Wayne Dyer talked about it like that, but really, like, it's right now happening. Like, my book is now in paperback, and you can get it anywhere. It's not yet, but I'm talking about it. But really, if you start saying that and you get into the feeling place of it, then the energy is going to bring you the cooperative components that line that all up, and you'll see it happen.
It's a great game actually to play. If you've got a friend who's kind of on this frequency, or has some, or even if they're not, it's a game that you can play with somebody. Where you actually step a whole year into the future, or however much time you want to step into the future, and you can say, "Remember when," and talk as though when that thing occurred that you don't have yet. So remember when I got that job and how it just unfolded magically and everything worked out for me, and it was more money than I had ever made, and now I'm feeling really good and life has gotten so much better now. Right? Does that make sense? Right? So you're stepping into the future and looking back as though it's already happened. That tells the subconscious that it has happened. And you will start acting from that place.
Is it that? Question,
Sure.
Is it that,
Yeah.
or is it more like if you were talking like that, your vibration just went up, didn't it?
If you like what you were doing, yeah.
Well, like.
Oh, his personal vibration went up. Yeah,
Well,
I felt
exactly.
it. Like,
So the imagination is creating a nicer vibration. That's good.
Because we have no resistance, because there's no existing experience to have resistance about, to criticize or to believe it's not working. Right? We're in the future, looking backwards, creating it in that moment. So you are pre-paving. Remember, and the more specific you get, particularly in a high vibration, you have a much better chance of manifesting the specifics. If you're just in a general vibration, law of attraction will pick things that match the vibration, but you can have very specific things. It's just that most people are used to being down here someplace, so they can't hold that vibration long enough. Right? So by doing this exercise, you're stepping into the future and looking backwards. You can create anything you want, right? Because it hasn't happened yet.
and really, when you're talking about, if you're doing it that way, then you should be really excited, because you're talking about things you want to see happen. And it is the emotion, then the feeling, like you said, didn't his emotion raise?
Yeah, because there's no resistance. It's all if you're
It's
doing
all your
this,
imagination.
it has to be at the top. Real quick, we got to wrap up.
I came from a place where I didn't really know what I wanted. So instead of talking about it, I'm kind of a creative. I actually sketched it out, and I had things that represented where I was, and I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to get my degree, and I had all this stuff, and it turned into this really beautiful spiral picture, just spiraling out.
Wow. I got that visual right off the bat. That's very nice. Yeah, it's the computer. It crashes at
okay,
8
thought I
o'clock
did
every
that.
time. It's telling us it's
I
time
thought
to
I was
get the
really
heck out of here.
finished.
Well, and that brings up one last little point I'd like to make based on what Marie just said. You don't actually have to know what you want. Okay? You've already told the universe. You've been telling it every moment of the day. When you're walking through your day and you're making little decisions, the universe is registering it. When you know what you don't want, you inherently know what you do want. They're created at the same time. So every time you know what you don't want, even if it's really small or if it's really big, you've created its exact opposite. And the broader part of you is listening and has registered it and has a point of attraction and is moving it toward you. You don't need to know what you want. All you got to do is get happy. Spend most of your time up here, and you'll just flow from one desire to the next. Things that you don't even know that you wanted will show up because you've already created them and they're already in motion. It's really an easy game once you get the habit of being happier most of the time.
And you know, Albert Einstein said, and this is one of my favorite quotes, your imagination is the preview for your life's coming attractions. And I wanted to put a little twist on it. Your emotions are the preview to your life's daily attractions. Right now, where you are, your emotion, that's the preview for you to know what's going to come.
That's right, every time. It's been a great conversation, guys. We got to wrap up here.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Time went by.
So what I always like to tell people at the end is have a little faith in the process. Even if there's stuff here that you're new to, because you haven't been exposed to all of it, have faith that this is a kind of a practical mechanism. Okay, it's just like gravity. It just behaves the same for everybody. And have the faith until you prove it to yourself. Practice. Dedicate yourself to practicing one of the things you learned today, every day, for 21 days. That's all it takes to develop a habit to begin with. And then have patience with yourself. Doesn't matter if you mess up. There's no messing up in the universe. When something doesn't go well, you've created clarity for what you do want, and you've put a desire out. So it's all good. No matter where you are, it's all good. So just be patient with yourself, and life will get really good really quick. So we're going to wrap up here. Open networking right after the meeting. Talk to each other. You came all this way. Have a cookie. Have some water. If we're lucky, we got an audio recording, and we'll get that up on YouTube. If not, then we won't. We decided to have a New Year's Eve party at our house, similar to the Christmas or the holiday party we had last week. If anybody wants to show up, it's on the website. Just go to the Billionaires Club. It's the meetup I just put up there this afternoon. If you want to show up, stop by, have a drink, and say hi. We'd love to have you over. And then in January, the 19th, will be our first meetup of 2017, and it'll be about kicking off 2017, about using deliberate intention. Well, we get really focused on what we want now. Go from the general to the specific. And with that, I want to thank you guys for coming out and playing with us today. This is as deep as it gets, and it's because you guys went deep. So go out and have a wonderful holiday if we don't see you, and hopefully we'll see you in 2017.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank
coming out,
you
everybody.
very much.
Appreciate you guys.